Awesome. Well, welcome everybody to another week of Fusion 360 Educators and Coffee. I've got it's now watered down coffee, but I do have the coffee here. But I want to run through a couple things, and then we will send it off to Ed to talk about how he's kind of done his program and this one instructor shop. Just a little bit about me. I won't go through all this, but I'm a program manager for education and work with H-Tech schools and two-year manufacturing programs across the country. A little bit industry experience, a lot of coaching experience, but did teach at the high school and 9 years at the community college level. So I can feel a lot of you guys' pain and what the transition is and what's happening in education right now and kind of where you're at. We also have John Peros on here, who is an off-road enthusiast. I think one of the cool things here is he was kind of from the beginning of Fusion, from the sales team side of things, and has a pretty extensive background in the CNC and using Fusion 360 all across the board. So we're excited to have him, and he's definitely there for our technical questions that we have. Some things on why we believe Fusion 360 is great in the classroom. One is the learning curve, students being able to pick it up. But two is they can go right into from modeling to the camming and truck on from there. The other great thing is this project collaboration. We talked about it a little bit last week on being able to use Fusion Teams and to share work and share data and information, being able to do it that way. But the other really big thing is this multiple platforms. And we know that in this area, students are using their own computers. They're not at the shop or the classroom. So having that, works on Mac and PC. One key note here, it does not work on Chromebook. And then we know that is kind of a growing issue, but we have that capability, at least for PC and Mac. So a couple things here. I won't go through all this. This is more for when we record it and send it out. You can pause and look at it. But we do have curriculum resources in our Design Academy. We do have one particular course I want to highlight, which is the Intro to CAD/CAM and Practical CNC Machining course. Great course to kind of get from the foundation of CAD all the way to 2.5-axis machining and really get that foundation concept of how to use Fusion along with CAM. And then, some of the help, one of the things is accessing the Fusion forums. If you do have a question, typing it in the Fusion forums and asking it, a lot of times you'll get a pretty quick response there. And you might also find the question already there. We have many educators that go there, and a lot of support people that are there as well. There's something unique here at the Pier 9 training and safety documentation. This is great stuff that we have at our Pier 9 makerspace, where we have CNC machines and 3D printers, but they have this safety information and documentation. It's been created for a lot of machines that you may have as well. And of course, our other resources that we have, our YouTube page. But we also have these transition guides that go from Fusion to Mastercam or Fusion to SolidWorks, and what are some of the differences and how do you interact with that, those changes as you go into Fusion 360 from those programs. So without further ado, my contact information is here. I'll put that in the chat as well, so you have it. Feel free to contact me anytime with questions, comments, concerns that you have. Happy to help you or find out those resources. As always, everything's always free for us, and our educational package is great, and access to myself and John Peros as well. So Ed's going to talk about how he's utilized Fusion 360 in this one instructor program and lab, and he's from Suncoast Technical College. So I will stop sharing here, and Ed, you're free to share. And Ed, you're muted here. Let me
mute.
There we go.
You see the screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. I made a PowerPoint, but I'm kind of basing it on my original one I did at Danville, where Tim was from last week. Danville had an H-Tech National Conference, and they asked for educator-led breakouts, they call it. It was always industry-led breakouts, but they wanted the educators to talk about what they do in their school, which I actually find even more interesting. So I did one on how we started our program at our schools. I have it on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, the CNC Machinist Education Network here, and it's starting from square one. So it's me talking over the PowerPoint about how we started with no machines for 5 months in the beginning of the program, and it's sort of relative to where we're at now. How do we teach with no machines, right? So anybody's interested in that, just go on the channel and watch that. And let me go on to my current presentation. So I'm going to call it restarting from square one. Okay, in the first video, this was the first class, the one that had the no machines for 5 months, but they all made it to the end. I'm pretty in touch with probably half of them still, and very fond of that group for hanging in there all that time. So, well, how did we do it? We did it through virtual training systems, like we use Immerse to Learn, and there's other ones out there like Tooling U and some other, or you can actually kind of build your own, through a learning management system. I'm doing some of that through Google Classroom. So this was the first class, my first year teaching. And then we went on a second class, 2015, 2016. That's our classroom up in the upper right there with our simulators in the back. And that was the only machines we had actually was, I think, a drill press and those things, and computers. And then we had 2017. That was a nice special year. We were guests of Stewart Haas Racing. We got 4 tickets, and I thought they were like free tickets to sit up in the stands. And no, we were with the Kurt Busch team all day, and they actually won. I said, I'll never go to the Daytona 500 again. How can you beat that? So they just said, don't get in the way when they're changing tires. So then we got 2018. And this was like the 5th year, because in the original presentation was director had got a grant from the county to start this program. The program had been killed like 10 years ago. And actually Mike has the machine that came from the Sarasota school, and he's still running it, by the way. But they closed the program, so they restarted the program again. And our director had promised the county 100 machinists in 5 years. So this was the 5th year. And we also hosted a Florida H-Tech conference, the first one. We even got Jeremy Bout to come down from Edge Factor. So it was very nice. And Bob Skininski, who was the H-Tech director at the time, who's actually a local Sarasota resident, was asked me to, host the conference. And we did some night school training. Obviously, we were training with all CNC and some CAD CAM stuff at the time. And some were returning students, or some were from industry. There was a sign up in the upper right. I actually be walking in the halls one day, and I happened to see that sign. I'm like, oh yeah, the 5-year thing. So when we started getting our Gene House Foundation checks, and down in the middle there is my buddy Todd Lazelle. He's actually a soccer referee, but he came through us through the financial industry. And down the lower right was our Mastercam rep, and the head of Mastercam, Megan West, actually visited us a couple years ago. And we came a long way, and there's 2 people from the first class. Pam is working for Air Products. She's, I guess she's moved up into the upper management area, but she was running the CNC plasma cutter and did some welding. And Ivan up there, who said he would never get a job better than driving rental cars around, is actually working at the Tesla battery plant in Sparks, Nevada now. He was actually recruited to go up there. And down in the middle is Tom Skininski, who is Bob Skininski's son, and he works locally running Haas machines. And he was a lot of help, and he likes to come around and take our class picture every year. So And then what was next? And I also had an official graduation. I know at Manatee Tech, you guys have an official graduation. We don't have that at the school. I think we should, but I said we should have our own graduation. So every year we'd have a little graduation. Everybody would come in with a little class, and we had some returning students come back, you know, just to say hello. So what was next, you know? Actually, in the H-Tech newsletter, Tony Neary wrote a nice article about one of our students who started his own company locally. Keegan McDuffie, he's probably one of the best students I ever had. He even designed that coaster up there. I just said, can you whip up something? We got to make a coaster. And but he came to us with solid modeling experience. So I let him use our Mastercam system at the time and my tutorial books I had, because he ran out of things to learn. So he really gravitated towards that. And I was noticing that anybody that had solid modeling experience could really learn the CAD CAM easily. All right, so now we're in 2018, year 6, the year we ventured in the CAD CAM for all. All right, the year before, I had been watching all the Titan CNC stuff on there. I actually met him at the H-Tech conference in Maine in 2016. And we decided to make, everybody's going to make a Titan 1M project. You know, the only catch was I only knew Mastercam, so I did it in Mastercam, and I actually did a haha picture, and I put the setup sheet there and my picture of it, and he got a little laugh out of it, so he posted it on his Facebook site. And then in Danville, where Tim is from, they hosted that conference, and this is when they did educator breakout sessions in addition to the industry-led ones. So I did mine on the school with no machines, and then Auburn, my buddy from Montana, he did his, and he's at Gallatin College in Bozeman, Montana, and I know where that is now because I've been to Montana. So, and he did how he uses CAD CAM simulation early in his class. And some of the instructors in there were saying, are you teaching CAD CAM right now? He goes, no, I'm not teaching it now. I'm using it for the toolpath simulation. He goes, those students think like gamers and they get it from that point of view. And then I realized, I said, I guess I'm old school now. I'm using the whiteboard, drawing little circles and stuff, and this is where the tool goes. And I literally would walk around the desk like an end mill, pretending I'm the end mill, talking about cut a comp. So I was thinking about that all the time. I said, geez, maybe I'm backwards. I got to start moving up, you know. The next year, we had a very small enrollment, 5 students in August, and we added like 4 more in January. I don't know why the enrollment was low. I know the unemployment was low, but we had only adults in that class, so that might be part of it. So, but the game got me to thinking about what I wanted to do. So we started with Fusion 360. I was mostly, my number one reason was I was just curious. Was it actually any good? Was it capable? And I figured, well, let's do a couple of these Titan the CNC projects. He's got the videos online. We could just follow the videos, and we'll just put them in the machine, see what happens. You know, I want to do it with no editing or anything. I also had to scoop some computers so everybody would have one, because they gave us laptops and they were inadequate for, you know, doing CAD CAM work. So I found some drafting computers that were being moved out as they were being, you know, they were being upgraded, and I squirreled them away, and I found a way to hook them up to our lab, you know, because we had to hook into the internet and not get the IT department all mad. So, but they let me do the lab install. I learned, you know, how to get around that. Bit of a learning curve, learning about the updates, and if they were learning at home on their version, and all those kind of hiccups. How to get tools in there, working with the CAM post, but we made some progress. And then we did let's do a Titan 1M again, and we'll take a picture, but I'll buy you all t-shirts. So we all bought t-shirts, we all took a picture and we sent it to Titan. He gives us a thumbs up, you know. But some of them, like naming up in the upper left corner here, he was excellent at this. And Norm is actually working with this MKM company. He did all 10 projects, but naming, actually, we took on a University of Florida engineering project. They were originally from our area, but they wanted to know if we can make a titanium golf club putter. And I said, well, can you send us a solid file? And they said, yeah. They sent us a SolidWorks file. We downloaded it, and he pretty much did like most of the project with just a little guidance from me. And we did like a test one out of aluminum, and then they gave us a chunk of titanium to work out of. So that worked out very well. And then same thing this year, we do the Titan 1M, we get the t-shirts, we take the picture, send it to Titan. He gives us a thumbs up on his Facebook Academy site. Then I let them all know that Titan saw it. So, all right. I did observe that the students were more proficient on the machines when they came to setting up and run. I was like deathly afraid I'd have to be there all the time to make sure they weren't going to crash the machine. And they always forgot how to do something. I came up with a checklist to put next to the machine, and it kind of went over and over it, but they always would forget something, and I'd have to fill in like a blank here and there. But I think going back to what Auburn was talking about, they seem to have a better concept of what was going to happen because they've been seeing all this simulation. They had to put in print numbers. They were very in tune with like the depth of a pocket or something like that. You know, when I was talking about it with previous projects a couple of years before, they weren't really in tune with like the print and is it the correct depth, and they would just say, no, it looks right. And you're like, no, you got to measure the thing. So but now if they're working off a blueprint, making the model, they kind of knew all the numbers, you know, what they would look for, the simulation, they knew what to expect and how to run this thing without wrecking the machine. So I started also trying to get into virtual communication previous to the COVID thing. I would prep the class every week. We had an active board, and I used the whiteboard up there to write the assignments for the week, and they would write them down. And then I saw another teacher was using PowerPoint, so I did PowerPoint, which looked a little nicer, but I'd have to print them out and hand them to everybody. And eventually I just said, I'm just going to put it on virtual so they have no excuse to say that they haven't got the assignments. And I started to use this Edmodo app, which a fellow teacher was using, and it was okay. And then I started using Google Classroom. Only I had to get the IT department to open up the, stop blocking the Google Drive. So, but that's working out pretty good. Another one up here in the upper right-hand corner, that's a picture of a screencast. And I really fell in love with the screencast. Built into Autodesk Fusion, or you can just download it separately. You can record your session. I first did it for doing lectures. Like I would just do my own project and talk about what I'm doing and what am I setting on each project. And then I started to learn how to have them share the file with me rather than I used to go stand over them. Like if they're on the computer and how do you know, I want to run the mouse and, you know, like it gets kind of like hard to teach that way. I said, if I was at my machine, I could do a better job. So it used to be like, give me your file, I'll bring it on the USB and put it in my machine and then I'll look at it. But the share file was like way better. You know, they could digitally send me the link to share the file. I can pull it up in mine and look at it and then start the screencast and talk over it. That's why I got this microphone originally, was to do the screencasting. So it gets recorded, Autodesk saves it, and then you send them the link back, which is their video of me talking one-on-one to them, either great job or great job, you should look at this and this, or I think you need to fix this, can you work on that and resubmit to me? You know, that was great. I also, some other things I use in class is the this Kahoot app. We did it in class like every Thursday, and it sounds like something that you'd have in elementary school, but I'll tell you, the adults actually really like it. I actually scooped some Kahoots from other people and renamed them, but I did some of my own, so I have a little library of them. So we would do the Kahoot, and it's like virtual training, so you can actually watch it on my YouTube video, how I use it in class. It's like you use your cell phone to answer. So to do it virtually, you would need them to be looking at the laptop so they could see the questions. So that's about the only difference. Okay. Actually, yesterday I got a nice letter from a local company saying I'm doing a good job. The students that I sent over, Norm, who did the 10 Titan projects, is like almost like the head programmer there now. He has less than a year experience. He was driving Uber, last year. And I have 2 more that are not graduates yet that are interning over there now. And he thinks everything is great, and he just wanted to reach out and give me a pat on the back, and and my boss. So I asked my boss if I could have a raise, but haha, Mike's laughing. So, but anyway, I thought it was very nice, and I shared that with Jason, and Mark's going to talk to Jason about using Fusion in there. And actually, the return response was, "We love Fusion 360." So I thought that was great. But I did notice that I used to think about it a couple of years ago about what is the dominant CAD CAM system in the world, and you can look at a list and be like, you got a list of your current users like Mastercam, GibbsCam, going down the line. So I used to think that I'm teaching for people that are currently in industry, and I used to lean one way. But now in our area, we don't have a lot of huge companies, and we have a lot of companies that have archaic CAM systems or no CAM system, or actually illegal CAM systems. I know a couple that have that. And so they're kind of receptive to the Fusion thing, mostly because when they hear free, but that it's good, But it's starting to become more industry. I'm starting to see it more and more now. I've seen it in a couple of ads, and obviously this company is 100% using it. So we also do a collaboration with a local private group called Career Edge Funders. They were part on the team that got the machining program again. I work with Maria Evie, that's in the picture there. We actually been on TV a couple times and videos. They will fund internships, and we're always working and talk about how it's more about getting people in the local area to do work in better jobs, like getting out of Walmart and moving up and being a technician, automotive, machining, all the skilled trade careers. So that's my restarting from square one. And I can actually talk a little bit about, I'll go back to my screencast screen, or virtual communication screen. I'll tell you, to answer Mike's question about the whiteboard, don't use the whiteboard. You can use virtual whiteboard if you really had to. I'm actually trying to learn how to do that. But there's a lot of apps out there. But I actually did one this morning just using the PowerPoint app actually has a recording device in there. And when I did the recording this morning, it actually popped my picture up from my camera. So it actually had me talking about the PowerPoint. So there are some PowerPoints, I think, from Cengage, the precision book. And you can download those, and then you can record over them, and you can save them as an MP4. And if you can put it on any YouTube channel and then send them the link, watch my lecture on this, So there's other ways of teaching some stuff. You could do virtual G-code using something called the NC Viewer. It's a link online if you type in NC Viewer. you can actually upload a code and it'll run pretty decent simulation. It won't run the specific macro codes like G13s and lathe G71s and stuff like that, but it'll do standard stuff, you know. I have been working out of the Haas workbook, and I have them do a screenshot of the page of what they were giving for an assignment. So if I'm in the Google Classroom, I could probably screenshot that in a minute, but I'll assign the page. I've said do the reading, but when it's due on Friday, I want you to send me the screenshot, and I'll go look at it. You know, then I can mark it up and send it back. So I'm finding different ways of how to teach online. You know, but I'll tell you, right now probably a great time to learn CAD/CAM. I think once they start doing it, it's like drawing and working on computers seems to come natural to young people, especially. It becomes very interesting to them. So I think in a way they'll start to forget about it, about not actually machining. You know, it won't be on the top of their mind. And I did some videos on a little bit better on simulation, like adding the vise or adding the soft jaws, and showing things you need to look out for when you're running your program, like possibility of crashes. So I was able to do that and then do a screencast of it, and they all get the link to the screencast. So the screencast method is probably the best because you just send them the link. You don't have to upload anything. Autodesk takes care of all of it. So then I also added in what Tim did last week, and I want them to learn how to do a share file, but we have file folders. So they'll copy it into the folder, and I just pull their project out of the folder and look at it, you know, and I'll do a screencast and talk about it. I'll look over the design, I'll check a few numbers, make sure the size is correct, and I'll look over their, you know, their program, you know, and I'll talk a little bit about speed and feed calculation, and maybe give them an assignment on do some research on I'm going to give you this feed and speed chart, and give me back the program with feeds and speeds that would match the machines in our shop. So other than that, I'll take any questions or anything.
Hey, Ed, do you want to bring up a sample screencast that you have, possibly, to kind of show what is being seen there? Because I think it's very unique in what it does.
Oh, okay. All right, so if I am in Fusion, I'll just let that come up for a minute, but I can actually go in. There's actually this thing's called Screencast Recorder, which will be, it's a downloadable. I'll just give this a minute to come up.
In the chat, I sent out the link to everybody for the screencast there. It's a free download that works with a majority of our softwares, including Fusion 360.
Right.
Hey Ed, Mike here. Quick question for you. Now, I was talking with Jason yesterday regarding the Autodesk Academy. Do you have your guys working on that? And if so, do you guys have do you go through the learning or the teaching version of that?
I'm still digging into that. I was kind of committed to the Titan path, and now I've been taking some courses that Jason turned me on to, and I'm starting to see the what's missing in the Titan stuff. The Titan stuff is cool because it's like he's industry, he's a machinist talking to you, very popular guy, but there's more to it than just what he's teaching. So when you start doing the Autodesk Academy stuff, you learn about other avenues and things like that. So I haven't really implemented that yet. I'm trying to put that together somehow. There was some in our Immerse to Learn but there was older Autodesk Academy stuff that was put in there. And I actually have reviewed it. I actually put a couple in there. One was to like make a sign, you know, but we're machinists. We don't make metal parts. So So I'm trying to learn how to put that together. I'll probably, if maybe we'll do a Zoom later and kind of collaborate on that and see how we can get that to work. Because I'm kind of learning how to dive into how do I use the curriculum and deliver it. So, because it's not a course that you can just click on and run. That's the only thing I found, that you'd have to really kind of build the course yourself. But if you just put the files in, and the download files and the PDFs and the video content, it's pretty much can run. You just got to kind of build that, as far as I could see. All right, so I'm in my Fusion here. This is actually the newer file folders I put in, and these are pinned, which means they'll be on the top. I've been starting to get more. The beauty of this is I have drafting next door, and they're all SolidWorks, and they're walking around with USBs and stuff, and we don't need any USBs. Everything's in the cloud, you know. I can go home, I could be here. So like these are my own projects. This is my class one. I just made these the other day for the students to drop their files in. But if I'm in my own, like Titan Mill, right? I'm in the Titan Mill. Well, let me look at a student one. I could just review one of his. Machinist, Asante, who's now working at MKM, he submitted this the other day, and we're learning like how to submit it correctly. He actually gave me he didn't copy it in, but I was able to figure out how to do it. But I did a screencast actually on how to do it correctly. So, all right, so you bring up the file, right? I'm in manufacture or design, right? I'm in design, I can look at it. And in here it says launch screencast recorder, right? I click on that and this thing comes up. And I just hit record. Right now, this red screen comes up and it's recording me right now, right as I'm talking. So I can talk about this and say, it looks pretty good. I'm looking around. I like the holes. They're not through. Maybe I'll measure a few things. I'll measure this. Let's see if I can click on something here. Yeah, measure that ring. I'm going to check some sizes. I can actually pull the print up and put it right next to it and say, yep, that all looks good. You get it at the home view. All right, let's go into what we're really here for, is the manufacturing part. I see you got two setups, good. I'm looking at the stock, just visually looks correct. Let's just run it in simulation. I'll simulate. All right, I'm going to turn the toolpath off and turn the stock on, and we'll let it play. All looks pretty, what do I expect? Yep. You can speed it up. So keep on going along. Add the adaptive clearing working very well. You can see how that's all working. And looks pretty good. I don't see any crashes or collisions or anything. I'm going kind of fast, but I could rewind this and say, let me jump ahead by operations. Let me go to this one. Let me go to this one. Now I just want to see this tool only slowed down, right? Oop. Slow as I can get it anyway. And then I also did another one where I inserted a vise, and I talked about collision detection. That I actually made a video of, so, but that's all in the share file. So if you actually go into the, right up here, and you hear manage screencasts, it brings me to all my screencasts. It's actually me to log in. I never learned to type. And there they are right there, new file share procedure. This is a commentary on his project, how to do a tool library. Student, he needed some help on the holes. So I did a screencast and sent it back. So what you do is you copy the link and send them back the link, send the link back, and this becomes viewable. Copy. So if I'm in, go to my Google Classroom here. He's in this class, grades, and he was working problem with threading the holes. Share the file with me. He shares the file with me. Here's a screencast. Your file is in the folder we set up. How do I download the tools? I made another video. How to download the tools. Did you get it fixed? Are you interested in Sun Hydraulics? Have you tried to fix it? And he just sent me back this one this morning. So if I, this is, I could do it by email or do it by this. So this is how I'm doing it now. So you could build your course around this, like take the Autodesk sample files and to be in the Google Drive, and then have the PDFs and everything, and have them submit the files to you to review. So that kind of stuff.
Can you play one of the screencasts just for a minute or 30 seconds just to see what that looks like?
Okay, I think I submitted a screencast already. Stop. It's still running. All right. We should have some of this stuff. There we go. Okay, Colby, I got your 6M in here. I'm actually going to save this in our new file folder here. I think this is my folder. And here we got the CNC Machinist folder. And I got yours in here. So I'm going to save this one in here. But I'm going to.
You scroll down just a little bit, Ed, to see the, I think it shows, yeah, down. So down below shows the timeline of things too. So, yeah.
Because you will have another copy. Yep. Yeah, so it'd be some like what product is running at what time. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's what's great about the screencast. Not only does it show that mouse on the left click, wheel, and right click, but also down below it shows you what they're actually clicking at that particular time, which is just an awesome use, especially from an educational standpoint. You don't have to explain it 10 times. I can see it right there.
I forget there was a setting on there because I was actually typing in my password and it was showing it. So I had to turn it off. I like, oh, where's that setting for that? So
good point.
Yeah. But it's like doing it in front of them with the screen. And then if you can add in, this is totally like talking, you're talking one-on-one. So I can share them like what their project is. Or the other one was like how to do something, And you I've taken this and I've expanded upon that. How can I use this to teach other things? But primarily, this is my focus was this. Let me just let it play a little more. So let's see. Plus, when you do this stuff, you can have a timeline of who did what. All right. And my wife talking about mine, which would be in precision.
And what's your kind of typical length for these? Do they range pretty good? Or are you pretty consistent with the time?
I can ramble a bit, so I need I watch YouTube stuff. I'm like, I think I got to keep these shorter. But what I did was I actually brought up my file next to it because I was like, I'm trying to remember how to do it, you know. So I'm looking at my timeline. You know, I look at the timeline down here and say, okay, let me go back in time and see where we're at. And I'll show him that too. Like, let me look at your timeline. How did you get to this point? You know, and see how I did it. You know, I used a pattern. Because you don't have to use the pattern, but you can. You know, so well, I think it's been great. I mean, even for myself, I'm learning. They're learning. We're sharing it. You know, we're not just in our own little world. So just try to be. I give the assignments out. I haven't had a great luck with having a group Zoom cast. I did do a Kahoot live, and I had like half the class show up because they all knew what that was. You know, I don't know what the trick to that is. I know the automotive guy seems to have better luck with people showing up to his Zoom time. So,
What are the questions we have?
Mike, you have no questions?
No, I had some questions before I posted on the chat. Now, you were talking about also doing your whiteboard as far as aside from doing the screencast, correct?
Yeah, I was looking at some different ones. So if I was, let me just turn this off. I think it's Microsoft Notes. I put up here whiteboard, and you can draw with this thing. So if you could record that, and I use this thing called OBS Screencast. That's a free downloadable screencast. It's right here. So it's going to show, I'm in the wrong screen right now, but these you would have to save as it's going to save as a MP4 file and load it to, you could send a video file via Google hard drive because it'll host, you know, it's a big enough file to host it. But I've been doing some, so we had, you trying to do it live or you trying to do it just as a lecture?
More like a lecture because just like you, trying to get them all together at the same time is like herding cats.
The thing I like about, like, I'm going to call it YouTube style teaching is who's paying attention when you're talking, right? Everybody? Not really. So they can always review it. It's like these video lessons. If I'm on Autodesk Academy and I stop, play, rewind, you know, I can go over it until I get it, you know. So if you record any of these sessions, however you deliver that, you could, it's there for them to use whenever, you know, whenever they're ready, or maybe they need to review it so they can rewind and review. So it's sort of like, how do you do that? So the Fusion stuff's like pretty easy because it's done all for you, or you just have to share the link. The way to do it beyond that is to find a way to save these files. I did one in PowerPoint, and you can save those as an MP4 because they probably don't have PowerPoint, so they can't run the PowerPoint. It's like, how do you do big files? It's sort of like the CAD cam issue is how do people share files, you know? When I worked at Roaring Toys, the programmer was actually moved to Pennsylvania, and we used to share files via Dropbox. So if you set up like a shared OneDrive and you send them the link, then that would have the repository of where their, you know, your video would be. You could do it that way too. You know, like have a drive for every, you know, just like a student drive. Here, here's the link. I want you to watch this video. This is your, you know, assignment. You know.
Yeah, what we do is we have Canvas, and I have the regular assignments. So what I do is, in the past, whenever I make my videos, I save it as an MP4,
Yep.
and I just drop it into their assignments. So then they have it there.
That works, yeah. So you have a format to deliver and save it. You just got to learn how to do it, right? And you want to be able to do it digitally. Not it's easier to do because even when I try to make my own YouTube videos of me at the machine, that's difficult. I follow some other YouTubers like A-Bomb and Pensacola and John Saunders and all that, and they're very good at it, and they spend a lot of time. I personally, I don't have the patience, but I can put a GoPro on my cap, but that's only that point of view. And you can put a video camera of you, but you're way away from the machine. They can't really see the details. That's what I kind of brainstormed on when I was taking the course on how to insert a vise into a Fusion file. And I took that a step further and made it into like, how do we use it for collision detection? And then I turned it into a lecture about what do you need to look out for when you're machining? Like how to not hit the vise. You got to know your numbers. You got to really know your setup, you know. And this was a way to get a close-up look, way closer than you could even in a machine. You know, you can get right up and say, this is what we're looking at. This little picture right here is where it could happen, you know. I wonder if I have one up here.
And what in your transition to Fusion, what was kind of one of the aha moments? I know you had a couple of them there. What was one of the big aha moments you had when switching over?
The proficiency at the machine. That was, you know, it just kind of came together that what Auburn had said, and all of a sudden they just like, I can actually leave the room and let these guys run the machines. I have no problem with that. I could never do that before, you know. And that was, and even earlier on, you know, and they're going back in and reprogramming. Oh, I missed this. Come back in, put the file in, and go at it again. You know, they had a lot of repetitions. You know, more reps the better. And I just was, you know, I made sure I walked them through the first couple of times, and then I would spot check them. And then after that, it would be like having my own company. I wouldn't have to even worry about them anymore. So I can only attest that to learning CAD/CAM and doing it from beginning to end. What I did before was I would give them pre-done programs, and they would run and set it up. And then we would do manual G-code programs, and they would run their projects. And that was about as far as we would get, other than maybe one or two students, and they were pretty much the ones that had solid modeling experience that could run the CAD/CAM system we had at the time. So we made the leap to going all Fusion, which was kind of, I was just motivated by curiosity more than anything. But it turned out to be very good. And very proficient, and it's everything I like about it. It seems to be in some ways, I think, as good or better than the other systems. So,
On the flip side of that, what was one of the biggest challenges you had?
Oh, challenges was first was getting their Autodesk accounts correct.
Sure.
And I did collab. Now I started collaborating with other Fusion teachers. Like I met Steve Hadwin from Oklahoma, and I finally got to meet Dan Frank, who I've seen on Titan videos, and I met him at the HTech conference in Danville, and now we're kind of good buddies. So talk about like, how do you have them set it up? And Steve does all the setup for them, you know, like, but I let them like, here, I want you to set in it's your username and password. You're in charge of it. But they usually make the wrong selection, or they went to they were on the education one. So, and then we'd have to go find a way to fix it. You know, sometimes they fixed quick and sometimes they didn't. So, so that was like the number one thing. The number two thing was the lab install. How do you keep it updated? Because if they're at home learning, they're on the newest one because that's always updating. The lab installs need some kind of access to update. So I was manually updating when I could. And eventually I would, I'd try to open somebody's file and they would give me an error and they're like, oh, we're behind like 1 or 2 updates. But my IT department, you know what? I didn't think they were going to work with me at all, but they figured it out. I don't know how they figured it out, but I'm getting automatic updates all the time. We're up to speed. So,
hopefully we're going to have some better solutions coming out for the education side for the upgrades.
and other things, just things you learn as you go along. Like I said, what's enabled the cloud libraries so that your CAM post and all your tools are carried with you. So you don't have to have them installed in that computer. You don't have to install anything in that computer. We just make sure you take this download file. This is all your tools. I want you to load this up. This is, and I have a screencast of how to do that,
Right.
What he was asking me. Apparently he never set up the one at home. Usually at the beginning of the year, they set theirs up at home, but he hadn't done his. So I said, oh, I can walk you through it. I don't have to be right there,
Right. So a question here on how do you have your students calculate speeds and feeds, depth of cut, etc.? Do you have some standards that you have there, or do you kind of go through some traditional processes to calculate that?
I'm just starting to build something on that because, and actually I was getting involved in the testing certification last night because I was adding in some questions on where do you look for that and what would you base it on. We always have the mantra of like carbide tooling and what material, so we take a basic chart and I would hand them out and say, this is going to be your standards. These are just starting points, but it gives you in the range, and you want to be able to, we're not talking RPMs, you got to be surface feet per minute. It's all in there. It'll self-calculate for you. And you just have to be aware of what your machine can do. If it's calculating 19,000 RPM and your machine only goes 7,500, well, you can't get there. So you're gonna have to make a decision at that point. So feeds and speeds would be relative to just following the data on the chart, chip load and that. And I could tie in some like Haas tip videos, like Mark Terryberry has got a really good one on feeds and speeds and stuff. So, and the Sandvik people have some pretty decent ones too. Other than some of the tooling companies get like way in depth with a lot of math. I think we need some like simpler versions of the basics of all that. And then I actually, the journey to tricordial milling, which is adaptive clearing. What settings do you use? It's kind of like it's been around for a while, but a lot of people don't know how to use it properly. And I learned from watching some videos and other people, what do you use for these settings and stuff? What's the whole point of this style of machining? Because when I saw a demonstration a long time ago when I was at Roaring Toys, it was actually a different cam company, but they showed us that style. And we were like, oh, it's going to snap that end mill right off. And it cut like butter. And we kind of got it just by looking at how the toolpath worked. I said, you could never write that by hand.
I think that's what's great about I think that's what's great about the simulation in Fusion too, is you can make some adjustments, run it, see what it looks like, make some adjustments, run it, see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know, like, is it capable, or
sure.
Do you have it clamped correctly? Is your tool hanging out too far? That kind of stuff,
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
I would do actually some screenshots of the settings, and I did some like, I would highlight them. And it's like, these are the settings you want to start looking at, like Asante, who's now submitting stuff, but he's working for the company. And I said, you got to understand what machines you're using, what they're capable of. And then you got to start tweaking your settings and start raising them up a little bit at a time. If I was at the machine, what we would do is normally I say, okay, this is programmed for 4,000 RPM. It can run 6. Let me temporarily raise the RPM and feed rate, relative to each other and see how it works. And then you could either change it at the machine and say, I got to start programming these things a little bit better. So it's all learning curve stuff. But if you give them some basic parameters to work with, depth of cut can be a tough one to you just start conservative and then you kind of learn as you go.
Great. Well, we're right at time here. I want to thank Ed for presenting and talking about how you're doing things at Suncoast Technical College, and appreciate the time. I will get this sent out to everyone on here, and also on the Facebook HTech group, and to a couple of other lists that I have. So again, I appreciate the time, Ed.
No problem. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you all for attending. I'm gonna put the survey in the chat one more time, if you don't mind taking it, just to have some data. And again, I'm gonna send you, put your information there. I'll send you a Fusion swag pack for you that you can at least wear around at home for the time being. So again, thank you all, and feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm gonna stop recording here.